You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 23 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about backyard landscaping. My name is Nathan Pottle, and thank you for joining me today. It's a pretty good day. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, you know? It's one of those feelings you don't have an explanation for it. It's just a good day. And maybe it's because I'm going camping over the weekend and I love camping so much. There aren't really any movies coming out this weekend, so I'm not even worried about missing new releases. I'm just going camping, and I'm going to kick my feet up, and I'm going to read a book, and it's going to be a really good time. But before I do that, I got to put out a new episode, so here I am. Last week we saw the release of Toy Story 4. Hopefully you had an opportunity to see it, because I'm about to talk about it and spoil the heck out of this movie. Not that there's tons to really spoil, it's just a really good, heartwarming movie. So there's your spoiler right there. I liked this movie a lot. As with all of my other reviews, you can expect me to talk about non-spoilers first, and then if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to know kind of things that happen, I'll give you a big old warning, the spoiler alert, and then you can leave, go watch the movie, come back, and you can enjoy the rest of the conversation. So basically the story of this movie is the movie opens with a flashback of 9 years ago, and we find out what happened to Bo Peep. And she left. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not to say exactly the circumstances of her departure, so I won't mention it. And then we get this beautiful montage of Andy playing with all the toys, and then Bonnie playing with all of the toys, and it really is an emotional opening. I really liked the opening of this movie quite a bit, and then we get into a new adventure with a lot of new characters. We have Forky, we have Ducky and Bunny, we have Gabby, Duke Kaboom, and one of my favorites of the movie, Combat Carl. He is not in the movie very much. I'm going to talk about him in the spoiler section because Combat Carl is one of my favorite parts of the movie. But basically, this is just another Toy Story adventure, and the toys are going off to do whatever their objective happens to be in this movie. In this case, it's to save Forky. So Bonnie made Forky in school to help her get through it because she doesn't like school. I can't say I completely blame her, but she just wants to stay at home and play with her toys, but she can't do that at school. So she made a new toy out of a fork. Well, not a fork, a spork. His name is Forky, and for whatever reason he comes alive. The movie doesn't know why he's alive, but he is. It's probably just because he's because like before he was garbage and now he's a toy. So I think maybe like once a child believes that you're a toy, even if you're not a toy, like that belief that you are makes you come to life. But at the same time, other toys who don't have owners, who are still like in the toy store, Val's Toy Barn, they're still alive, but they don't have kids who believe. So maybe if you're built as a toy, you're inherently alive because of your toyness, but a child can will something that's not a toy into life from the merits of it being a child's toy, something like that. I don't know how it works. If you start asking questions like that, the entire thing just absolutely falls apart. So we're not going to talk about that, but I am going to talk about the absolutely insane animation quality of this movie. Everything just looks so good. Just amazing. Love it. There's a cat in this movie that looks like it's just a real cat. Like, that's how well it's animated. It just looks like a cat. Isn't that crazy? The puppets, like the ventriloquist dummies, they look completely real. They look like actual terrifying ventriloquist dummies. I like them a lot. I have no complaints about the animation quality of this film. It's just absolutely on point. Pixar usually cranks out really high quality animation. That's part of what sets them apart from everyone else and makes them the best. I kind of listed off the new characters. I want to talk about them a little bit more in detail. So Forky is kind of the main focus of this movie. This movie is primarily about Woody and Forky and them spending time together, and Forky kind of knowing what it means to be alive and what it means to be a toy and things like that. I know that these are things that we've explored in the past movies, but this does it in a new way from someone without a perspective on what it means to be a toy, but what it means to be something else. And that's kind of what all of these movies are about. They're really about identity and what is your role in life, what is your role in society, who are you, who do you see yourself as, if who you see yourself as is who you actually are. Like there's a distinction there, and it's just really introspective. I really like how these movies take the time to just think about who you are in the world and why that matters. Everyone's got a place, and you got to find it, and it matters. It's important. So I really, really like those aspects of the Toy Story movies. It's part of why I like them so much. And this movie's no different. I think it's very good. So Forky, we get him on that perspective. The next characters that we get Ducky and Bunny. I count them kind of as one character because they're like actually connected. Like they're always right next to each other. And they're voiced by Key and Peele. Very, very funny guys. And they actually get kind of the bigger laughs in the movie. There's a lot of really good humor that comes out of Ducky and Bunny. They're not really deep characters. They're more there for comic relief. And that's okay. Every movie's got to have it. Even the very best of movies, like The Lord of the Rings, even they have comic relief characters. And that's okay. That's totally fine. It's good to have levity in your movie that's packed with emotion. If all your movie is just beating you down with sadness and seriousness and depression and all of these things, you're not going to walk out having enjoyed that movie. Of course not. If that's how you make your movies, then people are just going to come out depressed. You got to have a little bit of hope, a little bit of joy, a little bit of laughter in your movies. And like, even though I love Christopher Nolan's movies, that's something that he could work on. It's just like a little bit more joy, a little bit more of a spark, you know? Not something that sparks joy. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not about that life. But just something that like is a little more uplifting. Something hopeful, right? People like hope. That's what Star Wars is all about. They won't shut up about hope in those movies. So why can't other movies have it too, right? Right? I'm right. So that's what Ducky and Bunny is all about. They're just there for the laugh. So we've got Gabby. Now she is this movie's villain. I'm definitely going to talk more about her in the spoiler section, but I really liked her a lot. Obviously, of course, I can't remember who voices her. She's a recognizable name. I don't remember right now, and I didn't look it up, and that's on me. So she's a really interesting character. I like what they did with her a lot, and like I said, I'll get into more detail about her in the spoiler section. But one of the other big characters, now this character was a little overhyped for me. I didn't love him as much as I wanted to, and that's Duke Kaboom. He is voiced by Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is really big in the media lately, and people are talking about him a lot, and he's a lot of memes, and it's just absolutely crazy. So he's on a bit of a roll this year. I really liked him in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, if you listened to that episode. And I liked him in this movie too. He's a lot of fun. And it's one of those voice acting roles where like you know that it's him, but it doesn't sound like him, like he's doing a voice. So that was something that I enjoyed, like going into the movie knowing that it was him, and then like hearing, like letting him play with it, right? And doing a fun voice and just having a lot of fun. And that's what these movies, and that's something else that I really like about the Toy Story movies. It just like seems that everyone's just having fun and really enjoying it, and they know that they're making something good, and they can really get behind it. These movies are insanely good. There's no rhyme or reason why this movie series should be 4 movies long, and all of them are outstanding. How does that happen? It happens for taking your time and really knowing your characters, knowing your story, and telling the best version of that story. So I really appreciate Pixar taking their time on these movies. The first one came out in 1995. And then we got Toy Story 2 4 years later. 4 years in between sequels. Isn't that crazy? Well, it's not as crazy as the 11 years from 1999 to 2010 to get from Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3. I actually watched a fascinating video on YouTube the other day about a proposed Toy Story 3 that was supposed to come out in like the early 2000s that didn't end up getting made. It had some really interesting ideas, like Buzz Lightyear was faulty and needed to be sent back to the factory, and it was more of like a Buzz Lightyear focused movie, and it was about like they had to go save him at the factory because he wasn't getting fixed. He was going to get destroyed and turned into a new toy or something like that. It was kind of a cool thing to think about, but I like that movie didn't happen, that we got the Toy Story 3 that we did actually get in 2010. Such an excellent film. It, like I said in my Pixar review, Toy Story 3 is my favorite of all of them. That is still the case. I'll tell you right now. So as far as all the Toy Story movies go, Toy Story 4 is maybe the weakest of them all. Now that doesn't mean that Toy Story 4 is a bad movie. It's not. It's a very good movie. What it means is that Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are better. And that's just because when the bar is set so high, all you can hope is to get near it. And that's what Toy Story 4 does. It gets very near the bar. It does not surpass it. So here is my order right here. So I think Toy Story 3 is the best one, and then the first one, and then number 2, and then number 4. However, all of those other movies are movies that I've known and loved for years, like decades of my entire life. I've had Toy Story with me. So it's hard for a brand new movie that I've only seen once to compare it to movies that I've known for years and have seen dozens of times. So who knows, after I see it a few more times, or after I've had years to think about this movie and really analyze it some more, like I might end up liking it better, I might end up liking it worse. Who's gonna know? But as of right now, it sits at the bottom as far as these movies go. I think that that's enough non-spoilers for now. I don't think today's episode is gonna be hugely long. I've got things to do. I got to get ready for camping, so I'm just gonna breeze through. I don't want to do movie reviews where all I do is just sit and talk about how much I love the movie. That's not what I want to do. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. We're all more intelligent than that. If I like something, I want to approach it from like an analytical perspective. I want to see the movie for what it is and analyze it for what it is, and then share those thoughts with you. And if that doesn't take very much time to do, that's fine. This movie is not very long, and it's not it's deep on its emotional level, but it's one of those things that's hard to describe unless you've also seen it. So I don't really want to waste a bunch of time talking about things that don't matter about the movie. I'm wondering if the things I'm saying right now don't even really matter. But as thoughts come into my head, I like to share them. That's how podcasts work, and that's how I'm going to continue to do my podcast. So why don't I move into spoilers now, and we won't worry about anything else. So if you have not seen Toy Story 4, beware. I'm about to say things that happen in the movie that may or may not ruin the movie watching experience for you. So go watch Toy Story 4, then come back. Let's talk about this movie. I'm going to start with something that I did not like. If you listened to my Pixar rankings, one of the things that I do not like in Finding Dory is when the fish drive the truck at the end of the movie. And something very, very similar happens in Toy Story 4 when the toys are like crawling inside the vehicle and like short wiring things and like pretending to be the GPS, and the unicorn is like pulling on the brake and pulling on the gas pedal to make the vehicle drive faster and not be able to stop. And it was just a little too ridiculous for me. I like a little bit more realism. Like, I know that toys don't come alive and they don't talk, and so that in itself is not realism. But within the world that the Toy Story movies are set, they don't like to interfere or to like interact with humans on a huge scale. They do it in the first movie, and then that's it. So this is the second instance when it happens, and it felt like a little bit too much for me. Like, the ridiculousness of this RV going crazy because the toys are controlling it. It just didn't work for me. I didn't like it super much. So that's the biggest complaint that I have about this movie, is that I didn't really like it a lot. Another big thing that I want to talk about was the villain for this movie. So Gabby Gabby turns out to be more of a misunderstood villain, and I think I like that a lot, because in the other movies, in Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, we have Stinky Pete and Lotso Huggin' Bear, and they're just evil. And a kid had done them wrong, and they're taking it out in the world, and nothing can stop them. And Gabby Gabby is different because she never got the chance to be a toy, which I guess Stinky Pete never had that chance either. But that's all she wanted, was that chance to be a toy, and she never had it because she was faulty right out of the box. And so when you think of it that way, and how all she wanted was just have that chance to be with a kid, that's all she wanted, and all she needed was Woody's voice box. And I saw it coming that Woody was gonna give her the voice box and he was gonna move on. As soon as I saw that opening scene with Bo Peep inviting Woody to go with her on adventures, and he didn't do it, I knew right then and there that's how the movie was gonna end. And I was right. That's how the movie ends. But this movie isn't trying to shock you with its crazy plot twists and turns. It's trying to elicit emotion, and that's definitely what it does. Like when Gabby Gabby finally gets the voice box and her voice sounds great, and then she presents herself to Harmony to be her toy, and Harmony picks her up, and you're happy for Gabby Gabby because it finally happened, and then Harmony says, "No, I don't want her," and throws her into a box. And you're just like, oh. But at the same time, that's another thing. You see it coming. It's going to happen. But the execution is what's important. And so this villain in the movie who you didn't really like before, and she was kind of evil in the stuff that she was doing, now you see her from a different perspective and a different light, and now you feel for her. And that's a great turnaround, and I like how they did it, so I'm 100% on board with Gabby Gabby as a villain in this movie, even though her puppets are terrifying. Vincent, I think one of the names are, if I remember correctly. It's very, very scary, though. One thing that was hilarious in this movie was Buzz Lightyear's inner voice, and he would press the button, and he was his own personal magic 8-ball. You shake the ball, and it tells you what to do, and then he would do it. So it was hilarious because it kept working in Buzz's favor. He would press the button, it would tell him what to do, he would do it, and it would be the exact thing that he should have done. So I really liked that running joke in the movie with Buzz's inner voice. Which brings me to another thing, is I wish we would have had a little bit more Buzz Lightyear in this movie. I guess that's another complaint as well, that this movie is very focused on Woody and Forky, and we don't get a lot of Rex or Slinky or Ham or Buzz or the Potato Heads. And I understand why we didn't get a lot of Mr. Potato Head, because Don Rickles, who voiced Mr. Potato Head, died before this movie came out, and so they just used old, unused recordings for his character in this movie. So that's why he doesn't have a lot to do, because the old recordings that they have, all they really had was Woody, not again, and lines like that, right? So because they didn't have access to a lot, they couldn't have had those characters do a lot, right? So that's fine. They wanted to keep it as the original voice, and I totally understand that, and I respect that, and it's not a problem. I just wished they could have maybe found some way to use them a little bit more. I'm sitting here now and I'm thinking, and I'm looking at all of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about this movie, and I've gone through all of my stuff. I've gone through my whole list. I don't have anything else to say. Oh, wait, no. I didn't talk about Combat Carl. So my favorite joke in this movie is the one Combat Carl who goes for a high five and he doesn't get it. And then he goes for another high five and he doesn't get it. And then he's sad and he hangs his head and he walks away. I just think that's hilarious. I laughed so hard. just from this little toy who wants a high five and no one will give him one. I thought it was so funny. I liked it a lot. It was my favorite joke of the movie. I also really liked when Ducky and Bunny were talking about attacking the old lady to get the keys. It's like, and every time they reevaluated their plan, it was pretty much exactly the same. So I liked that a lot. I was laughing a lot. And then when they actually got the keys, the lady just put them down in front of them anyway, so they didn't have to do anything. The keys were just right there. Really funny stuff. I liked it a lot. There, maybe that's it. Maybe that's all I have to say about this movie. I did not talk for very long. Holy, this is going to be a less than 25-minute long episode. Probably about the 20-minute mark, probably, once I sit down to edit and whatnot. That's pretty crazy. But I'm not gonna waste your time and just talk about whatever. If that's all I really have to say today, that's all I really have to say today. So why don't I ask you? Why don't you engage in the conversation? It's not just me talking. Which is your favorite Toy Story movie? Did you see Toy Story 4? Did you like it? I would like to know if you liked it or not. I know a couple people who didn't. I really enjoyed this movie. You can reach out to me on social media and let me know what you thought. I'm on Twitter at PoddleNathan, and I'm on Instagram at Poddle Productions. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It means a lot to me that you'd spend the time to sit with me for a little bit and listen to me talk about movies. So just thanks. That's all I had to say. And if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.